All right, very good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Radar Scope once again, and welcome to an evening in Vancouver Center. We are, let's see here, we are stuck over here on the west coast of Vancouver today, and oh, looks like we got a couple of guys here. This guy's squawking 1200, but I bet that's who I think that is, so let's get him to call me. And then this guy's about to leave, but this guy here is he is inbound to CZST. So he should be talking to me as, actually no, because he's about to leave controlled airspace, so I'm not even going to worry about him. So we do have a couple of airplanes here. We've got a Lufthansa 477. I just identified him.
Good evening, Vancouver Center. This is Canadian Express, Canadian Air 3008.
Vancouver Center, November 456 Alpha Whiskey, radio check.
November 456 Alpha Whiskey, reach you 5x5, break Canadian Air 3008, Vancouver, good evening. Squawk code 0761.
We'll squawk 0671, Canadian 3008.
Canadian 3008, very close, it's 0761.
Correction, 0761 to squawk.
November 456 Alpha Whiskey, I've got you 5x5. I see you're already in descent there. You're going to leave controlled airspace when you descend through 180 pretty much, so you can just return to Unicom at this point. If you need the local weather, I can give it to you before you go.
Okay, well, we had the local weather. We just wanted to check in with you. We'll go back to Unicom, November 456 Alpha Whiskey, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I came on a couple minutes too late. Yeah, you're probably about 3 minutes away from leaving controlled airspace. Canadian 3008, Vancouver, thank you. Identified at 11,400, maintain 12,000, and you're cleared to Penticton via your flight planned route.
All right, we'll maintain 12,000 cleared flight plan route for Canadian Air 3008. Thank you.
Canadian Air 3008, no problem. The Penticton altimeter 2984. Let me know if you need the weather.
Roger that. We'll advise. Thank you very much.
All right, so he's going into Penticton. He came out of Castlegar. He's just doing a really... Encore 3265, Vancouver Center here. Thank you. Taxi Charlie and apron at your discretion.
Via Charlie, apron at discretion. Thank you very much. Encore 3265.
Okay, so I need to pull up some charts here already for...
Volume on the mic there.
Sorry, Encore 3265. Were you asking for your volume?
Yeah, how was my volume there? 3265.
3265. It's a little bit on the quiet side. It's definitely still audible though, but perhaps a little bit quiet.
Okay, so we'll just talk a little louder.
That's fine. I've heard much quieter mics. I could hear you just fine, so don't worry about it too much. What was I doing? Oh yeah. So I need to pull up charts already for Penticton. So I need to do something useful here. So let's just do this. Charts Penticton. There we go. Let's see here. The winds are 170, 11 gust 21. So out of the south. I don't even know Penticton's airport configuration here. So let's just have a quick look. It is a single runway, 1634, so I guess he's going to do runway 16. There's only one approach for that, an Arnav Zulu, so that's probably the one he's going to do. And he's gone. Yeah, and the time it takes me to go flip over to the other screen and look at what I'm doing there, he's gone. Oh well, no problem. All right, let's hope we can get a little bit more traffic. I would call these guys, like this guy, yeah, like I said, he's leaving, as he just crosses this boundary here in 180, he's leaving controlled airspace, so there's no point in really calling him up and talking to him too much. This guy over here, Delta 2175, is literally going to leave my airspace in the next, like, 60 seconds, so again, there was kind of no point in calling him, unfortunately. I really kind of want to, but just no point. And let me just untangle my headset wires a little bit here. I just got a message from...
Encore 3265, shutting down at the gate. We'll catch you on our trip to Vancouver.
Encore 3265. Look forward to it. I'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Sounds good. Encore 3265.
Canadian Air 3008, Vancouver. Looks like the winds in Penticton are favoring runway 16. They're showing 150 at 11, gusting 21. Did you want to set up for the RNAV Zulu to 16?
Affirmative. I'll go ahead and change the RNAV to around 16.
Canadian Air 3008, Roger. And when you're able, you can proceed direct Ketna, Kilo Echo Tango November Alpha.
Okay, stand by for Canadian Air 3008.
I'll just send him the there it is, the spelling of the fix as well by text, because I find it just as easier sometimes to do things via text. Yeah, so he was under an impression that IFR didn't need to be in contact below 180, which is totally not correct. In Canada, it, it depends on the area. Large swaths of Canada, yes, large swaths of Canada are uncontrolled below flight level 180, and you can actually see that on my screen here. I don't know how well it really shows up on the stream here, but yeah, it does show up a little. But the dark areas here represent low-level airspace that is controlled. So anywhere where you see the dark spaces here, this is controlled airspace all the way down to usually 2,200 feet AGL, with the exception being, and then outside of that, sorry, it's uncontrolled up to flight level 180, and then everywhere above 180 is controlled for IFR. So pretty much this whole southern area where it's very high density.
And Canadian Air 3008 will proceed directly to Ketna flight planned route.
Canadian Air 3008, thank you very much. And when ready, descend, actually stand by. Let's just see how far he is. And Canadian Air 3008, I'll have descent for you in 20 miles.
Okay, Roger, we'll stand by Canadian Air 3008.
All right, yeah, so as you can probably see here, hold on, I'm just trying to adjust my other screen here. I just got a little blocker, so I just gotta, there we go. So as you can see here, we've got an arrival controller online. I'm not talking to these guys here because there is Vancouver arrival online today. So he's dealing with them, so I'm just dealing with the kind of the outlying stuff. But we do have the Encore in Kelowna that's going to probably take off again. This area right down here is very busy, really, for the low-level airspace. Castlegar, Cranbrook, Kelowna, Penticton, Princeton, Kamloops. There's a whole ton of airports kind of within, what is that, probably about 100 miles of the U.S. border? Yeah, give or take, basically. But within about 100 miles of the U.S. border, there's a whole ton of aircraft. So what am I trying to say here? Yeah, so there's a lot of low-level controlled airspace because there's so many airports in that area. Whereas you get out to the kind of the more far-flung reaches of Vancouver, the interior of the province, and you get
Vancouver Center. This is Canadian Air 3008. Is it possible that I can go direct to Goti and then Ketna? Having some difficulties with my FMC.
Canadian Air 3008, standby 1. And Canadian Air 3008, that is approved. You can go direct Goti and then direct Ketna.
Okay, thank you very much, Canadian Air 3008.
Yeah, as opposed to the kind of the more far-flung interior regions where there's not a lot of traffic, you can see like this is actually quite a lot of restricted military airspace out here, and just not a whole lot of settlements, not a whole lot of not a whole lot of airports in those areas, so hence there's not really a need for control. Whereas over here, there's quite a lot of high-density airports with quite a lot of airline operations. Cranbrook, Castlegar, Kelowna, Kamloops, they all have airline operations, so you'd need some kind of control service down there. And then you do have kind of a ring of airports around the rest of the province, but there is like three fairly large areas here where there's a lot of uncontrolled airspace. Right here in the center of BC, also here along the Alberta border, and then up on the northern border as well. There's three quite large areas that have no control. So hence this guy here below 180, he's in uncontrolled airspace now. So there's no need for him to talk to us anymore. He can just make whatever calls he needs to on Unicom. And Jacob Stubbington, evening captain from Lufthansa 477. Oh, hello. Watching yourself slowly proceed towards my boundary here. You got 3 minutes there, and then I got to hand you off to Unicom. Unfortunately, I don't have Edmonton online tonight. I was debating. I was having a little debate. I haven't controlled Edmonton for a little while either. So I was having a debate whether I should control Edmonton or Vancouver. But the fact that there was a Vancouver controller already online kind of made me favor Vancouver a little bit, partly because I figured there's already sort of traffic being lured in a little bit, if you will. So I thought I would be more likely to get a more interesting stream. I actually also controlled for a couple of hours earlier this afternoon, and it was so quiet that I just did not feel the need to. I didn't feel the need to stream it, honestly. I felt like it was going to be. I ended up doing Winnipeg Center, and there was a handful of aircraft. There was like 2 or 3 departures and 2 arrivals, I think. But I was over the course of 3 hours, so that would have been a very boring stream. I don't think I have enough other stuff to talk about for 3 hours to really make it worthwhile. So I thought I'd postpone the stream until this evening. I figured there was a good chance of me being on time, which happens rarely, but it happens sometimes. And here we are. I actually made it online earlier than I anticipated. I anticipated I was going to be online perhaps by 9 o'clock tonight, and here it is now, just 9 o'clock now, and I've already been streaming for about 15 minutes here, 10, 15 minutes. Unfortunately, it's not a very busy evening right now, but please feel free to come out and join us. And obviously, Jacob, you're here, but anybody else watching, feel free to come out and join us. I'm going to be clocking in about 3 hours here, so I'm going to be on here till about midnight local, not midnight, about 9 p.m. local time, 5 Zulu, and then I'll probably punch out. But in the meantime, I got lots of time. Canadian Air 3008 descend 9,000.
Okay, roger that. We'll descend 9,000, Canadian Air 3008.
And Canadian Air 3008, my mistake, descend 9,600.
Roger that, 9,600.
Canadian Air 3008, that's correct. And you are cleared, Penticton. RNAV Zulu, runway 16 approach, Ketna transition.
Okay, roger that. Clear for Penticton via the Ketna transition.
All right, so he's doing good. He's on his way. I feel like I've just slid down to my chin a bit here. Just looking at my webcam, I look like I'm just a floating head and nothing much else. So let me just see if I can just flex my camera just a little lower, so you get just a little more center. There it is. Better. Okay. And Lufthansa 477 Heavy. Unfortunately, Edmonton is not online. You're leaving my airspace to the east. Your surveillance service terminates. Switch to the en route frequency. Have a good rest of the flight. We'll see you next time.
I will switch to 1228. And thanks for jumping on. Lufthansa 477.
No problem. And Jacob, I did not realize that was you as well earlier doing it. Was that WestJet 575, the inbound to Winnipeg? I honestly can't remember. What are the odds of that? It was not intentional. Uh, yeah, Yeah, who knew I was going to control for more than 3 hours? Yeah, from auto. Yeah, okay, that was you. Yeah, yep. Okay, yep. No, I remember you. I'm sorry, I didn't. I honestly didn't look at the name, so my apologies. Sometimes you just hop on and you're just looking at the airplanes. You're not really looking at the names of people. But I recognize voices sometimes too. Um, as you spend more time on this network, you definitely recognize voices as well. So, it glad I caught you twice. Sorry I wasn't here a little sooner. I was just getting myself sort of all organized and ready for this stream. But yeah, that's awesome that I managed to get you twice in one day, man. Making me a little bit jealous too because I have not been flying in the sim now in a month and a bit. Uh, it was early October when I disassembled my sim, and yeah, more than a little disappointed by that. So I have not done any flying for it's been about 5 weeks now, and not that I don't enjoy the ATC aspect as well, because I absolutely do. I really do enjoy the ATC aspect as well, and I'm having fun doing it. But I miss also streaming and just flying in general. It's fun to just sort of hop in the airplane and go different places and explore the sim world. And it's a little disappointing now, not not having done it for a good 4 or 5 weeks. So it's probably going to be at least 3 or 4 more weeks before I get stuff organized. But things are starting to sort of happen. There's sort of progress being made. Canadian Air 3008 Vancouver. No further traffic is observed reported between you and Penticton. You can switch to the advisory frequency now and report back on this frequency when you're down and clear.
Okay, roger that. We'll switch to advisory frequency and we'll report back when clear. Canadian Air 3008.
So yeah, it's a little disappointing, but I will definitely get back into streaming soon. Yeah, I definitely will get back into the flight deck soon. Like I said, things are kind of making progress, making progress. My sim pit will not be ready probably for at least 3 or 4 more weeks, but this week is some big steps are moving forward, so it's good, and it's kind of nice. Like when you're undertaking like any like major renovation, it always sort of feels so overwhelming at the beginning. Oh, there's just so much to do, so many steps to the project, and usually there's kind of like a few key big milestones, big steps that like once they're done, you're like, okay, now it's starting to really kind of feel like progress is being made. So this week is going to be big progress is going to be made, and then hopefully things will sort of start happening a little quicker. The funny thing about renovations is they always start as like, oh, it's a simple project. I'm just going to do this and this, and then it's always a little bit of the feature creep. You're just always slowly adding a little bit more. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time just making sure everything's done right, especially when it's your own house. You're not selling it, you're doing it for your own benefit, for your family's benefit. You tend to spend a lot of time kind of focusing on, okay, let's make sure we do it properly, do it the way we want it done. So yeah, it is going to take a little while to get it done, but I think it's going to be very much worth it in the long run. It'd be nice to have a sim pit with good lighting. The one thing about that room was it was so dark before. The walls were so dark. So having good lighting, I think, is going to help a lot with just the ambient lighting during streaming to make it a little bit nicer. It's also going to be nice to have a little bit more space too. The desk that I used to have was very compact. It was very small. It came from a condo, so it was built for the condo, custom built for the condo. So it was very small. It served its purpose well for many years, but the room is big enough to have a bigger desk. So why why was I waiting all this time to get a bigger desk in there? I don't know. But now, hopefully we'll when we get it up and running, it'll look a lot nicer. It'll be a little bit easier to do streaming, a little bit less hassle trying to sort of get the room set up if it's already sort of naturally set up for it. I've been off flight sim for a bit too, pretty busy with flight training. Just did 300 nautical miles. That took a lot of work. Jacob, well, it's good that you got the 300 mile out of the way. That is a big check mark on the CPL for sure. I mean, that's kind of right up there with the flight test. Maybe not quite as intimidating as the flight test, but it can be. It's a long way to go. 300 miles is a long way to go, especially when you're doing it in something slower like a 170. I don't know what you're doing the training in, but I assume it's probably something along the lines of a 172 or a Cherokee or something. So that'll 3 hour cross country or 300-mile cross country is a long cross country. It's if you do the round trip in a day with somebody else, that's a full day trip. I think I remember when I did mine, we did the round trip in a day. I flew out and the other guy flew back, or the other way around. Honestly, it was 20 years ago. I can't remember who flew which way, but it's a long trip. So it's good to get that out of the way. nice to feel that sense of accomplishment too when you actually get somewhere. You have a goal in mind, you get somewhere. So much of like flight training is just sort of, rolling, sort of just touring around the patch and doing exercises. But like an airplane at the end of the day, it's a lot of fun, but it's a transportation tool. So when you use it as a tool to get from point A to point B, it's such a satisfying feeling. So much more so, I think, than doing endless circuits or going out and doing the exercises. Then you feel like a real pilot because you actually use the airplane with a goal in mind. You got somewhere. So congrats on getting that 300-mile done. That's good, and keep working on the flight training. That's yeah, it's been a really kind of rough couple of years for the industry, the last 2 years, but it's coming back with a vengeance, barring any like major like variant suddenly taking over the world again. I would say that we're due to go back to where we were 2 years ago, and 2 years ago was just gangbusters. It could not. Uh, the airlines could not turn over enough rocks to find people to operate their airplanes. So keep up the training. Kitchener to Timmins all the way. Yeah, that's definitely a long day. Yeah. Beautiful scenery. I hope it wasn't too cold when you got to Timmins. Good couple of weeks to get it done because it hasn't turned cold yet. So good that you got it done before like winter really hit. I mean, you get the nice cold weather performance, but the last thing you want to do is have your cross country put off by snow squalls or something like that. So kind of nice to get it in there when it's the weather's still a little bit decent temperature wise. So glad you glad you got that in there. Haven't been to Timmins in a long time. I'm trying to think the last time I went to Timmins. It's been 4 or 5 years since I went to Timmins. But yeah, good time to be getting your license because it right now where the industry is still kind of in recall reset mode. But by this time next year, pretty much there probably won't be an airline in Canada that isn't hiring. So if you're thinking about getting in the business, again, it's still a good time. If you're doing your CPL right now, you're getting there at a good point. Yeah, by this time next year, the industry will probably be hiring like gangbusters again. There's still, obviously stuff kind of went sideways for 2 years here, but the underlying fundamentals of the industry are still there. There's still a lot of airplanes. Airlines have a lot of airplanes. There are a lot of airplanes on order, and there's not nearly enough pilots to fly them all. The retirements are coming fast and furious still. I ended up transitioning into a company that has a lot more uh, older people and just older pilots. Um, I came from a company that wasn't that old to a company that's much older. It's got a lot of old pilots. There's a lot of people approaching retirement age. Different people say different things. I don't know exactly what the expiry date is on everybody, but anywhere from 20 to 35% of the workforce is expected to retire in the next 5 years at our company, which is just phenomenal. That's huge. So there's huge openings in the business right now. There will be for the future. Just have a quick look around here, see if anybody else is just got this Canadair 3008. The Encore said he was coming back. I've got a couple guys on the ground in Vancouver. The one guy, two of them are going down to Vegas, so I'm not going to talk to them at all because they're pretty much going to. I'll talk to them for like 2 minutes and then they'll leave my airspace to south. But there is one guy filed from Vancouver up to Edmonton, so he'll fly through our airspace. So hopefully we'll get some activity. I see there's quite a few you guys. The stream really kind of picked up in the last 10 or 15 minutes here, so anybody watching, if you have questions about VATSIM ATC or aviation in general, please feel free to ask in the chat there. I'm always willing to answer the chat. And yeah, if you're interested, I'm going to be here for about 3 hours. So log a flight, come on down. And if you're nervous about being on VATSIM, don't be nervous. I a lot of people have watched my VATSIM circuit tutorial videos. Tons of people there, among my most popular videos for the year. So I know a lot of people out there who are subscribers to my channel are watching those videos. Some of you guys are nervous about getting on VATSIM. Please feel free to come on down. Um, right now I am live streaming, so but you know, at the end of the day, like this is a learning experience. Nobody does anything perfectly on this network. Not me, not anybody. Um, it's a learning experience. The motto is aviate, navigate, educate. No, what is it? Aviate, educate, communicate. I forget what it is. Anyways, educate is in there. So please feel free to come on down. Um, if you have questions or anything, I can definitely answer them either through the stream or through private chat if you want to. Don't be afraid to come on and make a mistake. As I said, everyone learns. Everyone's here to learn on VATSIM, and that's one of the biggest things I always try to emphasize to people. It's a network where we have a high expectation. Roger, thank you. Uh, it's an it's a network where we have a high expectation, but only because we want people to aim to be their best. It's not because we want to exclude anyone who isn't the best. We want people to always aspire to be the best. And if you fail at it, so be it. Did you learn from your experience? Did you learn from your failure? I'm still learning stuff. I've been on this network for 11 years now, coming on 12 years very soon. Um, do I know everything about controlling on VATSIM? Absolutely not. I'm always learning new stuff, whether it be about the way the network is run and the system architecture is set up, whether it be about the regulations. I've actually started republishing our manual of operations, and as I'm doing it, I'm going through it literally page by page, and I'm going to continue to try to read each page as I go through it and republish it and learn more, try to absorb more information. I definitely don't know it all. So please feel free to ask questions. Feel free to come on out here. We've got a bunch of towers online. So at Vancouver Center, I'm controlling a huge swath of airspace, which also includes all the controlled airports under my jurisdiction. The only exceptions being, of course, those within the Vancouver terminal here, which are, of course, controlled by Vancouver terminal themselves. But in the top-down structure, I still have control of a couple of controlled airports here: Prince George, Kelowna, and then Comox as well. So you can come and do circuits or try a flight plan from any one of those airports. If you don't have a lot of time, a lot of these airports are close together. You can fly Comox to Vancouver or Kelowna to Vancouver. Those are two pretty close together airports. You could do 30, 45-minute flights easily with that. You don't need to make it a long flight just to participate in the network. And that's one of the things I like too, is trying to encourage people to do these shorter flights too. They add a lot more interest. The long haul flights tend to just, you spend a lot of time sitting there at the flight deck. And for those of you that have watched my streams, you know how much of a struggle it is sometimes in the long hauls to keep yourself occupied. Um, I've done these streams, and I've done a couple of streams where we did cross the pond, not the actual cross the pond event, but we've actually gone from North America to Europe, live streamed, 9 solid hours of flying. I didn't live stream the whole thing. I couldn't. I couldn't think of stuff to talk about for that much time. Never mind physically talking for that much time. My throat would probably just close right up and after that long. So it's not it's not something where you can necessarily stay in the flight deck the whole time. It's not exciting the whole time. Long haul flying is often pretty boring in the middle. I did a Saskatoon turn the other week, and my God, it was boring because we also did it in the middle, not the middle of the night, but we did it late in the evening, and come back in the middle of the night and sitting there on Winnipeg Center's frequency, and it was like us and like two other airplanes on the frequency, and nobody was really talking much. Like you go 25 or 30 minutes without even hearing anything on the radio. So um, shorter flights, I think, are much more interesting, especially from a VATSIM perspective too. Keeps things interesting, stuff keeps happening. A short period of cruise, half an hour to an hour in cruise is fine, and I can usually keep myself occupied for those periods of time. But when you get to that ultra long haul flying, it can be hard to do anything. It can be hard to keep yourself awake for that long length of time. Uh, Long haul flying is challenging from a human endurance standpoint more than anything. All right, Kelowna. So we got the Encore 3331. He is back, and he's going to head down to Vancouver in a 320. I didn't know Encore had 320s. Okay. Suspension of disbelief. It is VATSIM. Let's see here. Let's just see his route. Where's Kepna? I'm just going to check and see if Kepna is on any of my departures out of Kelowna, because definitely one thing that I will say is that I do not know all the charts and all the procedures for all the airports in Vancouver. It's just too many airports when you're a center controller that are under your jurisdiction. I know the more common ones. I know the common ones quite well, but it's hard to know them all. So let's see here. Kelowna, let's see if one ends at Kepna. I don't think they do. Doesn't sound familiar. No, one ends at Merritt. One ends at NB. One ends at Princeton. No, not one of them. Okay. One thing that is interesting, kind of a little amusing for you simmers out there. Let's just see here. So I just realized here in my Navigraph charts here, if I can just pop this up on my other screen, and you guys should be able to see this here if I swap this over. Browser, there we go. So one interesting little tidbit here, if I just exit this for a second, is that this is the
And Vancouver Center, this is Canadian Air 3008, landed at Penticton.
Canadian Air 3008, Vancouver Center. Thank you. Your flight plan is closed. Learning service is terminated. Have yourself a good night, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your help tonight. Good night.
No problem. Good night. Yeah, so back to the browser for a second, just to show you what I discovered, and that is that the last time I flew the sim, at least on a sim, at least like on an airline routing, was we did Chicago Midway down to Las Vegas in the 737. I still remember that. I did it as a Southwest flight, Chicago Midway all the way down to Vegas, and that was probably 2 months ago. And that was the last time I had to set a route in Navigraph. That's probably the last time I used SimBrief because that was the last time I flew the sim. All my accounts are going to go dormant if I'm not careful soon. Actually, that reminds me of one thing I should probably check is my Canadian Express status too, because I have not. I haven't checked that recently. Anyways, let's go back to this.
Center, this is Encore 3331. What departure can we expect out of Kelowna tonight, and which runway into Vancouver?
Encore 3331, Vancouver Center. Hello again. Let's see here. The departure runway is going to be 34. You can plan on the Kelowna 8 departure. Just let me know when you're ready for the clearance. And right now they're arriving on the 8s in Vancouver, so you can probably plan 8 left for arrival.
Okay, roger that. We appreciate that. Thanks. We'll get back to you shortly.
Roger that. Yeah, this is one of the things. It's like a number of things that like I kind of do periodically on the sim. Actually I haven't been able to do for a while, and one of them is actually fly for Canadian Express, and I do enjoy flying for Canadian Express. I don't want to get kicked out of the airline, so I wonder if there is a way for me to go and just go on a leave of absence so I don't get kicked out of the airline for not flying often enough. I think I should be okay because I flew not too long before my thing expired, but yeah. Interesting. I didn't even think about that. And it's just interesting the things you kind of think about. Let's see here. I should remember to email. Yeah, I should email Canadian Express and make sure that I don't get kicked out of the airline because I really enjoy flying for that airline. I've amassed quite a few miles on it, and I don't want to get kicked out anytime soon. All these things, like I haven't gone like this long without flying the sim in years now, so I am jonesing. Magnus, cheers from VATSIM, colleague controller at ESGG. Are you online right now? And let me think. Is that Gothenburg? Is that ESGG Gothenburg? Where's my Navigraph? I am getting pretty good with a lot of different what's the word? A lot of different airport identifiers, even overseas, because I do like to fly in different areas. ESGG, Gothenburg, Landvetter, Sweden. Nice. Yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see other controllers online, and yeah, I guess it's quite late for you in Europe now, so I don't know what you're still doing here, but please feel free to watch the stream if you're an insomniac. Unfortunately, I just don't have much traffic, guys. I see a whole bunch of you watching the stream. Some of you guys log in and let's do something. Let's do some circuits just to kind of keep me occupied. Give something interesting to occur here because it's really otherwise it's quite an uneventful evening. I thought the traffic would pick up a little bit the second I logged in. Now, mind you, I've only been here for about 40 minutes. Vancouver arrival's been here for a little bit longer. Um, we're getting to that point where we should start to see some traffic pick up now. It's a little bit later in the evening, just a little bit. It is a Tuesday night as well, so it's not exactly like a hopping night on VATSIM, but hopefully in the next hour or so we'll start to see some more West Coasters who start looking who start getting online and looking for what they want to do. Because right now it's only, let's see here, it's only 6:30 in Vancouver time, so should be getting the evening Vancouver rush soon, I hope. Unfortunately, I'm just very seldom able to stream the weekends. That being said, this Sunday, uh, which kind of route did you take to get to the airlines? Flight instruction or other types of time building? Uh, that's an excellent question. First of all, just this Sunday, right now, we're kind of still in the organizing phase, but there probably will be a event happening in the Edmonton FIR here in Canada, and I'll probably be controlling for that. So if that happens, I'll probably also be live streaming it. So that probably will be Sunday night after, let's see, 02 Zulu. So if you guys are around Sunday night 02 Zulu, check out that stream. As far as me getting into the industry, I did the flight instructing route. I spent I spent about 4 years as a flight instructor in the 4 years, 5 years as a flight instructor. Uh, yeah, in the early 2000s, the industry was not hopping back then. It was a very challenging time to try and get into the business. Nobody was hiring, so people were stuck in their current jobs for long, long periods of time. It was a very frustrating go for a long time, and I never really gave up on the industry, but it was nevertheless a pretty frustrating time. It took a long time to sort of get a first job outside of flight instruction. So I'm glad I stuck with it. It's been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun even back then doing flight instruction. It by about the third or fourth year, and it started to wear on me because I found I was teaching people the same lessons over and over again, and because the school I was working in, it was close to Toronto. It was not a it was a lot of weekend warriors, not a lot of career-minded people. So a lot of people who were just doing it very casually. They had no real ambition to get things done quickly, and oftentimes a lot of them just gave up after a while. They realized underestimated the time commitment ahead of time, and then would give up at some point along the way. So I started so many people towards their license and only finished a handful of people over those years. It was very, very frustrating. And I think that more than anything was what sort of frustrated me was the lack of follow through by a lot of people, the lack of accomplishment. I did the same lesson, started people off over and over and over again, and then never. So few of them actually saw it all the way through and finished their licenses. It was very frustrating. So um, I was really kind of glad to get out of instructing when I finally did, and then spent, let's see, 6 years flying charter before I got into the airlines, and that was also fun. It was not, you don't make as much money generally working as a charter pilot as you do in the airlines, but i- it's a lot less repetitive in most cases. You find yourself going to new and exciting places and exploring all the time, and that was probably one of the more enjoyable parts of that job. The other thing too is you're very much um, an independent, uh, very independent person when you're flying charter. Very independent team. Like you have like what they call a dispatch, but it's really not a dispatch. They usually don't plan your flights for you. All they simply do is assign the flights, book your hotels, and call customs. But you know. They're as much sales agents as they are dispatchers. You do your own flight planning. You often do your own customs arrangements. Um, you load the airplane, fuel the airplane, get it out of the hangar, inspect it, all that stuff you do yourself. So it's you're very independent minded when you work for charter companies. You're very used to being very self sufficient, and it's not a bad thing. It's fun. You know the things are done well when you do them yourself, and that's always important to me. Um, I definitely enjoyed that part, but then it was kind of nice to get into the regularity of the airlines. being in the charter companies, especially in smaller companies, schedules are often non-existent. You're just whenever they have a trip is when you're expected to come to work. Specific days off are often hard to come by. So yeah, from a scheduling perspective, it was a little bit challenging. The nice thing about the airlines is there's a level of predictability to it. It's not what am I trying to say here? It's not you know the schedule is not always great because you don't always get what you want, but you know what you're going to be doing for the month ahead of time. When the schedule comes out, that's the schedule. It's not like, well, whenever we need you, if somebody calls up for a last minute trip tomorrow, we hope you're going to be available to come in. No, it's, you know, the airlines like if you're assigned a day off, that's it. It's your day off. So you know your schedule when it comes out, published the month before, and that's it. You know it. So it's kind of it's nice in that sense, but it's a very repetitive job. You end up going to the same places. That being said, though, as much as it's repetitive, there's always something different happening. There's always something new, whether it be a different something different on the aircraft braking that you've never seen before, or something that just a different combination of traffic, a different combination of approaches. Like every flight's, it's repetitive, yet every day is different. No 2 days are really exactly alike in the airline industry still, even though it is very, very repetitive job. You're doing the same routes, the same airports over and over again, depending on the airline you work for. You know, it could be as few as like 3 or 4 or 5 different destinations, and that's it. That's all you go to day in and day out for all year long. Or, it could be you work for a large airline and you could be like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 different airports, and you may not see the same airport more than a handful of times all throughout the year. So it's yeah. I mean, each step of the way has its own advantages and disadvantages. And one of the most important thing is don't be in such a rush to get to sort of your end game that you don't enjoy the trip along the way. I have to say, I had some of probably my most fun adventures when I was at the charter level, going to places I'd never been to before. Um, Exploring new airports, checking out new towns and cities. Sometimes, I mean, new cities, but sometimes small towns even. Checking out where's the good local restaurants and hangouts, and uh, sometimes just falling over backwards into some really fun places to hang out. So definitely, I think charter was definitely one of the more fun parts. It's nice to sort of work for the airline and fly a larger aircraft and have a little bit more responsibility, but how's the weather in Vancouver? You got rain, fog. I think Vancouver's nice. Let's see here. Yeah, right now it's pretty nice. A little gusty wind, but otherwise it's cav okay. 15 miles few at 2,500, scattered 6,000 feet. So overall it's pretty nice right now. The one actually interesting thing about Vancouver, I don't know if anybody saw this, but let me pull up. Let's see here. Let me just pull up something that just happened just the other day. Let's go back to the browser. Here it comes. Just 2 days ago, there was a tornado right off the end of the runway in Vancouver. And sorry, I thought there was a video, but tornado, tornado, tornado. It looked like this is supposed to be a video, unless it's maybe in the Twitter here or something.
Vancouver Center. This is Encore 3331 at gate number 6 tonight. We've changed aircraft to A330 today. And we will be we do have information Bravo. We have 2 9er A3 in the box. We request IFR today to Vancouver from Kelowna.
Encore 3331, hello again. You're cleared to Vancouver via the Kelowna 8 departure. Radar vectors to Kepna and your flight planned route. And departure runway, I'll keep it the same for you as before. Runway 34 for departure, squawk code 0724. The winds are light.
Vancouver 8 the Kelowna 8 departure, vectors to Hip-Hop. Flight plan route will be departing from runway 34 tonight, and we will put in the box there 0724.
Encore 3331, Vancouver. Thanks. The readback is all correct. Information is bravo. Push back and start up at your discretion and call when ready for taxi.
We will call when ready to taxi on for 3331.
Yeah, I'm just noticing the winds here are very light and variable kind of in Kelowna now, and the latest METAR now they're at 0.80 at 4, so now it's almost a straight crosswind. We'll let it be. It's such a light wind anyways, it's not going to make a big difference. But yeah, that was pretty crazy that right off the end of the runway in Vancouver, there was a water spout. I imagine nobody was departing for a little while then. So yeah, it's kind of yeah, the weather was a little interesting in Vancouver this week. It's kind of boring right now, but that's okay. One thing I'll say though, it's been a very warm fall. I'm not from the West Coast, but in Central Canada, holy geez, it's been Eastern Canada. It's been a warm, warm fall. It's November. It's the second week of November, and yet like this week it was like 14, 15 degrees. Like that's for November. That's crazy. It's barely dropped below freezing yet. So of course, that being said, it's a little freezing in here. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to turn the thermostat up 1 notch. There we go. So still kind of quiet here. Come on, guys. Somebody do something. I got one departure. And I lost my departure from Vancouver to Edmonton. He seems to have vanished off the network as well, unfortunately. So, unless this is him. Oh, that's why, because he's already airborne. Okay, good. Well, we're going to have 2 airplanes in our airspace at the same time. I don't know if I can handle this. Oh, it's a Tuesday night. I guess what was I really expecting? I was hoping for something though. It's evening. I mean, I have trouble with my streaming. Like I'm often streaming during the day because it's the time that I'm free. So yeah, I hope some of you guys will log in and do something here. Come and do some circuits anywhere. Kelowna, not Kamloops because it's not controlled, but Kelowna, Comox, Prince George. Come and do some circuits. Let's do something. When I do get my sim pit back up and running, though, boy, am I going to have a good live stream flight. I haven't even opened up my pilot's life again in about 6 weeks, but I believe we were supposed to do Chicago to Kansas City and back. And so my proposal, and that's supposed to do that in the CRJ, my proposal is that I'm probably going to try and do that whole thing, that whole turn in one mega stream and stream for like 5 or 6 hours straight just to sort of celebrate coming back. The other thing I was thinking about was maybe I could do something else. Try to maybe do some flying around Vancouver or something. I also haven't flown the DC-6 in a while. Ugh, before you know it, like the PMDG is going to release their 737, I'm still going to be like, my sim's not back together yet. I want to fly it, but I can't. They've been pretty quiet for a while. I still don't think that thing's coming out anytime soon. But the one that I'm really kind of looking forward to, and I hope it comes out before too long, is flying the Concorde. I think it's the DC Designs is making the Concorde for MSFS, and I really want to see that one. I think that's going to be really neat. I really want to see Toronto scenery. I really want to see that Toronto Pearson scenery come out because I hate the default MSFS Toronto scenery. I really want to see that come out because the Vancouver scenery is really nice and MSFS looks really good. The Vancouver MSFS looks really good. The Kelowna looks really good from VATSIM Studios there as well. But yeah, there's definitely still like tons of good airports that I enjoyed flying to in P3D that are not yet out in the MSFS world. So here's hoping they come out soon. Not that it really matters to me much. I haven't been tracking. I haven't been tracking stuff nearly as much. I haven't been reading FS Elite nearly as much because I don't have a sim. So most of what they talk about usually is related to actually flying the sim. So without the sim, it kind of takes away the point of reading it. But let's just see if there's anything else interesting on FS Elite that's worth talking about here. If I can find it, it won't come up for some reason. There we go. Just to find something to talk about while we wait for some traffic to happen here. Orbex announces Himalaya mesh for MSFS. Now that should be an interesting one as well. That might be. Um, MSFS is such a great VFR scenery that some of these absolutely um, epic parts of the world, and the Himalayas would be one of them. Spectacular scenery. An even higher quality mesh would be great. So I think that would be a lot of fun. I think the Himalayas I'd definitely be into looking at that, flying around there. Um, the mountains in BC here, the Alps especially too. I kind of I started I started the tour of the Alps in what was it? I can't even remember. It's that just package of like VFR tours, and I started the Alps tour. It was fun. I never got very far. I only got a couple of places into it. We basically have all the airports around Toronto except for Toronto, unfortunately. Yes, that's actually an excellent point. Yeah, like there's a Buttonville, a Brampton, a Kitchener. There are quite a few high quality airports out, but Toronto is it's such a mega project to undertake. And the one thing I'll say about Fly Tampa is they don't do anything half-assed. They will not release it until it is a very high quality piece of scenery, and it's been confirmed on their forums multiple times that they are working on it. It's definitely not it's definitely not on hiatus or not on their radar. They're definitely working on it, but Toronto Pearson is definitely it's one of the complex airports of the world in terms of the layout of the whole.
3331, ready to taxi facing west.
Encore 3331 Vancouver, runway 34, the altimeter 2986, information Bravo. Taxi apron at your discretion, Charlie and Delta, hold short 34. No problem.
That will be, we're facing west. How about we take Echo there?
Sure, Encore 3331, that's approved. Taxi Echo Delta.
Okay, we'll do Echo hold short of runway 34, Encore 3331.
Vancouver Center, WestJet 458 with you, flight level 160, 16,000.
WestJet 458, Vancouver Center, good evening. Continue climb, flight level 330.
Continue climb up, flight level 330, WestJet 458, thanks.
Yeah, Toronto is I'm not going to say it's the best airport in the world or anything like that, but it's definitely a very complex airport. The buildings, the terminals are very architecturally complex. They're beautiful buildings, I think. Terminal 1 and Terminal 3 are both beautiful buildings, but they're architecturally complex. They're not easy to do. Um, there's a ton of different airside and groundside buildings nearby that need to be done. Lots of taxiways. If they're going to do a really good job, and I hope they do, I would love to see the sloped taxiways and runways in MSFS. Toronto is not an airport that you think of when you think of like hilly airports or slopes, but it's built on it's built on a relatively flat piece of terrain, but there are quite a few noticeable rises. 3-3 right being one of the most notable. There's a big hill going up 3-3 right till about halfway, and then it kind of goes back down again. And quite a number of taxiways are on the southern end of 3-3 right. There's some big hills there to get up onto the apron. So I would like to hope that they're doing some of that stuff, the sloping taxiways and whatnot. But there's just a lot of buildings, a lot of detail. Fly Tampa never fails to put the ultimate level of detail to all of this. And then I was just reading their Athens. They released Athens, I think, like last week or the week before. Uh, and they have a lot of new features they've introduced into Athens. Among them, animated flags, which is a simple thing, but it's amazing how that again that adds just a little depth of little more realism, a little more immersion. Um, it just, you know,
Vancouver Center, Encore 3331, holding short, runway 34, and we don't need the backtrack. We can take her from here.
Encore 3331, thank you for that. Contact me once you're airborne. The winds are 080 at 4, clear for takeoff, runway 34.
Cleared to take off, runway 34. Encore 3331.
Yeah, you know, animated flags really, maybe it's a little gimmicky, but it's just one of those things where if you're looking at a screenshot or not a screenshot, but if you're looking at the airport and you see these flags that are just stiff as boards and not moving at all, then you know it's just an object. But you add just a little flutter, and it just sort of, you know, you just adds the imagination, fires the imagination just a little bit more. Um, Apparently, they have animated passengers inside the terminal in Athens. Definitely something that you could do in Toronto. There's a lot of glass. A lot of the terminals are made of glass, especially in the gate area. So you could definitely add a lot of animation there. There's lots of opportunities for animation. Vehicles driving around the airport, vehicles driving on the roadways. There is the link train between the terminals and the parking lot. So there's lots of room for animation and you know, little additional nuances and added touches that help just sort of just add to that level of immersion. And again, it just, you know, you just see the link train just in the background, just going back and forth, and it's nothing very exciting, but it just adds to that sense of realism, that sense of place that you're actually there. So eh, I have to believe that they are definitely taking their time to make sure it's done well. The other thing too is that there's whole new sections of the airport that have been built since the last time they released their Toronto software, so, or the Toronto scenery. Specifically, uh, all the 250 gates. So uh, you know, not the east of the international concourse. There's a new concourse now where there really wasn't much of one before, with a whole bunch of brand new gates and new buildings there. So probably, you know, modeling those, they probably are trying to bring their model up to date. So modeling those is not going to be quick and easy. So it's I have to believe that Fly Tampa is this delay is because they are taking their time to make sure it's done and done very well. That's one thing that Fly Tampa does. It's they do very good, high quality scenery. So it'll be worth the wait when it comes out.
Vancouver Center, Encore 3331, passing 280 for 9,000, runway heading.
Encore 3331 Vancouver. Thanks. Identified. Climb flight level 240.
Climb to flight level 240, Encore 3331.
Any other interesting news recently? Sound. Incheon Airport. Lots of airports, left, right, and center. It's going to take a while still for them to get caught up to where P3D was, where you could pretty much almost name a major airport, and somebody somewhere had made a better than default scenery of it. Is this all we're going to get today? We got a couple. Let's see here. There's a departure out of Calgary heading to Vancouver. Okay, good. We got one there. Still got these two guys going out of Vancouver to go to Vegas. Just not a very busy evening in Vancouver. Not a very busy evening on VATSIM altogether. 557 connections right now. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. I will have to say, like, it amazes me too to see the number of developers that have developed for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Um, uh, it seems like the SDK is perhaps easier than previous sims, easier than P3D, because it seems like people just jumped on this bandwagon, and even you know, new developers are able to release fairly high quality airports in fairly short order. So eh, maybe there is an element of experience um, with previously uh, with previous developments and developers getting into this, but it really quite amazed me how quickly people are able to produce content for this simulator, for Microsoft Flight Simulator, as opposed to previous P3D and FSX, which had people to it took a long time to sort of get the development cycles up there. I think the other thing too, though, is that people are very much aware of what the market is now for the for simulators now. Um, I just read, I guess Navigraph sent out their press release and or they sent out their latest update, and they announced that they are preparing for the 2021 Flight Sim survey, and they're seeking out partners, anyone who wants to be a part of it. But one thing they said is that last year they received over 22,000 responses to their survey, so it's a niche market, but it's a decent niche market. A lot of people who are into it generally have money to spend, so uh, Encore 3331 Vancouver, turn left direct to Kepna.
Turn left direct to Kempta, Encore 3331.
Tim, how's it going? Nice to see you. It's been a little while since we ran into each other, so it's nice to see you again. Nice to see you watching. Unfortunately, it's a very quiet evening. Feel free to log in and log a flight here because there's not much going on this evening. I was hoping like I logged in what did I log in here? I guess it was 6 p.m. Vancouver time. I figured, just sort of catch the dinner crowd, the after dinner crowd, and it's very very quiet here, unfortunately. The Kitchener scene is really nice. Unfortunately, the whole airport is under construction. I'm uh, getting expanded, so the scenery will be outdated. Unfortunately, this is one of the troubles that you have to sort of admire as what am I trying to say here? As as a user, I admire those developers that can keep their scenery up to date. FS Dream Team is one of those ones that really I, I I feel like they put a lot of effort into regularly updating a lot of their scenery, but it is like at the end of the day, like how much airports are constantly evolving. First of all, like you can't just say, hey, I'm going to update this airport in perpetuity, because they're constantly changing, whether it be building new terminals, building new runways and taxiways, or maybe just changing up the buildings, changing the configuration of taxiways a little bit, adding just a little new connector there, or changing it around a little bit. Things are constantly changing. uh is it World Flight? Where's World Flight? um Tim says World Flight's drawing lots of traffic. I don't even Where is World Flight right now? Yeah, unfortunately, the way I look at it is that scenery has to basically be a snapshot. Uh, a lot of this scenery, it's not going to be updated and regularly, so you have to sort of look at it as a snapshot. Let's see, World Flight, 3 days. Flight schedule. Let's have a look at the flight schedule for World Flight. Times are shown in UTC. Uh, let's see, what day are we on here? We're now on November 10th, so this is World Flight right now is, I don't recognize these these identifiers. Let's see, it is now 21:10. Let's see here. So they should be leaving South America that eastbound? Oh, I found World Flight. It took me a while to find it. I didn't zoom out enough. You know what I didn't do is I didn't look at South America. And that's where they are right now. I can see them now. They're going from, I believe that's Sao Paulo up to, I don't even know what airport that is, Recife on the eastern coast. So, that's where all the VATSIMers were hiding tonight. Is it's World Flight. I did not realize it was World Flight, so my apologies. Okay, so that's where everybody is. Okay, well, and then I should encourage everybody if you haven't already, please donate to World Flight. It's a charitable event. It basically, yeah, thank you, Tim. Sorry, I found it. Tim says Brazil. Uh, yeah, it's a charitable event that supports the Australian Flying Doctor Service. Basically, these guys fly around the world, um, and yeah, they have ATC services provided the whole way around the world. It takes them about a week to fly around the whole bloody world. What is it? How long does this take? 3 days, 4 days? So let's see. They start on the 6th in Australia and they're going to finish on the 13th. Yeah, it's almost a week of continuous flying. And they visit just tons of airports. They sort of go up, down, left, right, all around, visiting tons of different airports. There's 42 legs to it this year. 42 legs. It starts in Sydney. I guess this year they're going eastbound all the way around. So they've been through North America already. They started out eastbound. They went north up through Hong Kong, Taipei, I believe that is, and then up through Japan, Anchorage. They did actually come through Vancouver. Um, two 2.5 mornings ago. Yeah, that's right. I remember, and we looked at the time and we said, who's going to come and wake up and do that controlling in Vancouver at that time because it was just like it's so far. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning, I think, Vancouver time. So it was hard to sort of get enough people to do it. But yeah, I don't even know how many miles they cover, but it's a lot of long legs, and then they're going from Brazil across over to Africa, I believe, up through Europe, uh, and then over into the Middle East and back down towards Sydney. So they're not going to finish up until the 13th, so another 3 days before they finish up. But if you want to go to their website and you can donate to support the Flying Doctor Service in Australia that provides medical service and transportation to people located way in the Australian outback. Yeah, they've raised $8,200 for the so far this year. I believe that's for the year. $8,200. They're $1,800 shy of their $10,000 goal. So yeah, go to www.worldflight.com.au. And if you want to donate, please. It's one of VATSIM's premier events, right up there with Cross the Pond. The difference being that this is for charity. So if you can, please go and donate something. Oh, and I spelt it wrong. Of course I did. Put it in the channel, and I spelt it wrong. Darn it. Let's try that again. There. Sorry that I could not be here to stream that, but actually, yeah. What morning? What morning was that? What ungodly hour was that? That was Saturday morning. Yeah, no, I was not going to be here for that. Just way too far on the wrong side of the clock for me. I love VATSIM and I love doing, and I'll happily do things for charity, but I cannot. One of the toughest things about working in this industry, especially, is working on all sorts of weird sides of the clock and trying to sort of maintain a normal lifestyle when you're at home and normal hours when you're at home. And it can be very tough to do. I basically work nights most of the time now. For the rest of the month, I'm on reserve, overnight reserve. So, the other night I left home after my family went to bed. My entire family had gone to bed, and I was still awake. I was still awake in about a half an hour after everybody went to bed. Then I left the house and went to work. So I mean, that one's not so bad because at least you're sort of there and awake the whole time during the day. But oftentimes when you work these overnight shifts, then you come home and the only thing you want to do is sleep. So you sleep until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon because you're trying to catch up on the fact you didn't get any sleep before that. Encore 3331 Vancouver. The information is Bravo, plan runway 08 left. Encore 3331 Vancouver. Information is Bravo in Vancouver. Plan runway 08 left.
Information Bravo for Vancouver today, and we shall plan for 08 left. Can we have the RNAV RNP Yankee tonight, sir?
Encore 3331. I'll make a note of your request. The arrival controller will be able to approve that.
Fantastic. If he doesn't, we just have to work around it.
I would anticipate, based on the levels of traffic tonight, it should be no problem for that. But I've made that note. But he'll be the one to decide if it's approved or not.
Right. Thank you very much. Encore 3331.
All right, we got an airplane airborne out of Calgary. Maybe this is our aircraft inbound to Vancouver. Yeah, it looks like it. All right, so we got another guy. Gonna be here for 3 hours. We're gonna see like 4 or 5 airplanes. Well, if I'd known World Flight was going on, I probably shouldn't have bothered. Streaming, there's no competing with that. There's no competing with this. That being said, and it's funny to look at how many people are uh, Australia-based pilots, which I guess it's morning now in Australia, so it's not so bad for some of them. I'm just trying to find, most of them are, you get a couple of Americans in there, a couple of Europeans in there, but it's mostly, looks like it's, you get quite a few Americans in there actually. But it is a large portion of Australians flying that as well. That's one thing, I've never really flown the sim to Australia. I really should. I believe Flight Tampa released their Sydney for MSFS. The one thing, and the trouble is, like, I'm kind of waiting for a high-end, long-range airliner. There are some pretty. There are the default airplanes. There's the default Dreamliner and the default 747-800. I just can't fly these default airliners. Like, I expect a certain level from the airliners. I mean, obviously, I can't fly them now because my sim doesn't exist right now. But I expect a certain level of quality that the default airliners don't meet. And for GA airplanes that are relatively simple mechanically, um, probably relatively simple aerodynamically, uh, I find the simulation is definitely close enough that they're definitely usable as airplanes, and I feel like I haven't compromised a whole lot. Um, but with the major airliners, I just don't feel like those default airplanes really do those airliners any justice whatsoever. So I think that's really what I'm waiting for. I'm a North American based pilot, so I like to fly in North America, and I like to fly flights based in North America with North American Airlines. It's just the way I am. I don't know why, but it is. And so I find that uh, the one thing that I really have a hard time wrapping my head around is airplanes based in other countries. Um, because the other thing too is, like, again, and Microsoft Flight Simulator kind of defeats a lot of this, but like the one thing I found, especially in the P3D world, was it's like I only like to stream. And Encore 3331, yes, actually looks like it is Charlie now. Encore 3331, Vancouver, when ready, descend 12, 2000 on Vancouver altimeter 29er 7.
Send to 112,000 at our discretion. Information Charlie, 29er 7 in the box tonight on course 3331.
Encore 3331, that's correct. And even as we had the conversation here, looks like the information in Vancouver just flipped to Delta.
We will check information Delta here shortly when it comes up.
Roger. And again, so more of a throwback to my P3D days, but especially as far as streaming is concerned.
That weather.
As far as streaming is concerned, I only like to fly like detailed airports. Like I would never stream.
Core 3331 has information Delta now.
Roger. I would never stream like these default airports in P3D. So what ends up happening, of course, is you sort of end up with like a cluster of airports, you know, in areas that you like to fly, because you want them to sort of be close to each other in sort of a network that you can sort of fly back and forth to them. So overseas, you often don't establish a network overseas unless you start with one or two airports that maybe are long range airports that you can fly to, and then once you sort of have those airports, and you sort of add more airports around there. So I've never really added airports in Australia because I never even went to one airport in Australia to sort of start that sort of process, if you will, where you then sort of move outwards from this one major airport. And especially in MSFS, again, like I said, because it's missing the long haul airplanes, I really am jonesing for some long haul airplanes. The 330 would be nice. The 777 and the 47 would be very nice to have. Even the Dreamliner would be very nice to have. Yeah, those are airplanes that I'm looking forward to. But yeah. Unfortunately, those the high-end copies of those airplanes don't exist yet. PMDG's got them in development. I hope it'll be once they sort of, you know, once they sort of pop the cork on the first one, the other ones will come out pretty quickly. Um, the 37 is their learning curve airplane where they're really learning the sim, learning how to work their model into the Sims SDK. I hope once that one comes out, you know, they have a lot of information already and a lot of system stuff already worked out for the 47 and the 777. I'm hoping that they will come out relatively quick succession once the 37 comes out. Yeah, and we'll see what happens anyways. As long as I have my sim put back together before these things start releasing. There has been a whole lot of chatter about them, so I don't think anything is really that close to releasing. Any new airplanes are really that close to releasing yet. I know that Aerosoft did say they did publish pricing information on their 900-1000 CRJ upgrade expansion pack, and very reasonable. I think it was like 16 or 18 euros, a very reasonable price for their expansion pack. I will probably be in on that one. I'm not usually one to go over expansion packs, but that's one that I think, again, and it probably as much as anything comes down to a lack of a lack of high quality airplanes in Microsoft Flight Simulator that make me want to, expand my hangar any way I can, even if it is just like a smaller aircraft. Yeah, PMDG 7. So Jacob says the PMDG 7.3 is apparently supposed to release by the end of the year. I remain forever hopeful, but at the same time, very much a believe it when I see it kind of guy when it comes to PMDG products. Because again, PMDG like Fly Tampa, they take their product seriously. They won't release a half-assed product, much more so than you can say about Microsoft and the Sobo and what they did with Microsoft Flight Simulator. PMDG will not release that 737 until they believe it is truly worthy of the PMDG name. And I'm not trying to, yeah, you know, I'm not one of like those like ultra PMDG fanboys, but I do respect that they put out a very good product, a very high end, high quality, very detailed product that you're able to you're able to get a lot of realistic enjoyment out of. There we go. Encore 3331, contact Vancouver, arrival now 128.6. Good night.
Contact Vancouver arrival on 128.6 on for 3331. Thanks for the service. We appreciate it.
Not a problem, anytime. Good night. Yeah, I'm forever hopeful, but pessimistic at the same time. I don't think PMTG is going to probably release the 3.7 before the end of the year. I hope so. Jared, what's up? I hope. I would like to see it. I would love to have my sim set up, and the first thing I do when I set up the sim is install PMTG 737. I would love that to be the case. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I would love to see that. I think that'd be great. I think the other one that's also actually kind of came out of left field, and it looks like it's already very far along in the development process, is the what is it? The Phoenix A320. That one also looks very good. Just to see some of the systems videos they put together on that one, that one looks really good. So I'm very curious to see that one as well. That one seems like it could very well be worth the money when it comes out. But again, we have to see what the I have to see what comes out there. Like, it's been very quiet. You know, we're now a year and a quarter into the sim. Only had like one high quality airliner release to date, really, for the sim that I can think of, unless I'm missing something. But the CRJ is the only really high quality airliner release to date. I think when the developers do kind of get over this initial hump, and especially if Microsoft would stop changing the sim all the time, or Asobo would stop changing the sim all the time too, with their bloody updates, mandatory updates that the second you install it breaks all your add-ons, but you can't not install it. They won't let you not install it. Very frustrating sometimes. Yeah, Jared, no, long time no see. No kidding. Definitely have to make yourself get yourself around here more often. But so do I. I will be the first to say as well that I have not put nearly the time into this network that I should. Um, I have a number of commitments on the network, and I really should be putting more time into them. I have a number of commitments outside the network as well that I've been putting a lot of time into.
Okay, 355 with flight level 360.
Air Canada 355 Vancouver Centre. Good evening. Squawk code 0777.
0777 for the squawk, okay, 355.
All right. I was about to say, well, we're going to lose an airplane before we get another airplane back. We're going to have dead air for a few minutes, but no. Any second now. 0777. There we go. Air Canada 355, Vancouver Centre. Thank you very much. Identified flight level 360. Welcome aboard.
Roger, thank you. 355.
WestJet 458. You're leaving my airspace to the east. Surveillance service terminates. Switch to the en route frequency. Have a good night.
Switch en route. WestJet 458. Have a good night. Thank you very much.
And we're just going to watch this guy truck across my airspace for the next 45 minutes because nobody else seems to want to fly in Vancouver today. Even these two guys going down to Vegas have been sitting there for like an hour already and haven't left yet. Got a couple of inbounds to Vancouver, but other than this Air Canada 355, the other two are coming from quite far away, and they're both going to probably come up the Grizz arrival, and the Grizz arrival goes straight to Vancouver arrival. No talking to the center controller there. So yeah, a very, very quiet evening, unfortunately. Just not an exciting evening for live streaming. Unfortunately. Not doing a good job of selling this, am I? Hi. So I still see a whole bunch of you out there watching. I know there's a bunch of you out there watching. Please, please fly. Give me something to do. Not just sit here and watch Air Canada 355 slowly inch his way across my screen, little by little, minute by minute, second by second, until I go insane watching and waiting for him. Ooh, something happened. It's now Information Charlie in Kelowna. The winds are still out of the south. Alright, what the heck? 1-6 is definitely easier, so what the heck? We'll switch it around to 1-6, and there you go. We now have switched to 1-6. It's Information Delta 1-6. And that's it. Runway change complete, because there's nobody there at all to talk to. Or if you don't, Roger. Or if you don't want to fly, please ask some questions. If you're, if you have any questions about VATSIM, ATC, flying in general, flying the sim, anything, please feel free to ask. Something to set up some conversations here. Oh, there's a route map too. There we go. Start November 6th, finish 13th November, world flight. It's unfortunate that the timing was that they were flying through Vancouver just at totally in the middle of the night. It's a bit unfortunate, but what can you do? I imagine they must hit up different airports every year, though. I'm pretty sure they do. I've seen other world flight maps, and other world flight maps are definitely a little bit different. So they must hit up try to hit up at least some different airports every year. Try and make it a little more interesting. Try and change it up a little bit so you're not flying the same route all the time, visiting the same airports. And because world flight is it's a very well attended event as well. Like there's one official flight that sort of is the flight um, that they're trying to have ATC for, but then there's a whole bunch of hangers on, if you will, that fly in tandem with this one flight that's actually flying. And either in front of or behind the world flight, and it creates a very long stream of departures and arrivals. So to just use Recife as an example here, right now there's 15 people filed for departure. I guess the next destination is Dakar, and there's 32 people inbound, and the vast majority, with the exception of just like 2 or 3 people, the vast majority of these people are involved in the flight. So it's very uh, that's a good 30 or that's a good 40 airplanes involved in the flight. That's enough to keep any controller busy for a couple of hours at least. I wish I was able to coordinate my life and my schedule better to meet some of these events and be online for some of these events, but it just doesn't work. I've never flown in VATSIM in Canada. Any notable differences from flying in the US? If you've flown in the US, then most of what you fly in Canada is pretty similar in general. It is the little differences. The vast majority of the rules in Canada are more or less the same, and the phraseology is more or less the same. So definitely flying in the US, if you come up and fly in Canada, you'll definitely feel comfortable. You won't there's nothing that should be too out of left field for you. There's a few different phrases. Um, in Canada, we don't have traffic patterns. We have circuits. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Let's see what else. Uh, the classifications of airspace are a little bit different. They're more or less the same, but the biggest difference being that Class B airspace in Canada is only high-level airspace. Class B airspace in Canada only exists from 12,500 up to flight level 180, wherever there's controlled airspace. There's no Class B terminal units in Canada. Terminal units are Class C airspace and only Class C airspace. So that's a small difference. But for the most part, you most of the same rules apply. The same altitude orders, the same kind of speed limits, ATC. The other big thing, if you're flying IFR especially, is there's no such thing as a descend via clearance in Canada. If you have filed a star, if you're cleared via a star, you still have to follow the altitude, all the altitudes that are published on the star. However, you can't descend below the lowest altitude that ATC cleared you to. So, which probably doesn't make any sense, but that's probably one of the bigger differences, actually, really, now that I think about it, is the way stars are handled. There's no such thing as descend via in Canada. So, to use Vancouver as an example here, if I can pull up some charts for Vancouver, the arrival that everybody seems to fly here is the Canuck arrival, Canuck 508s. There we go. Let me just pull up my web browser here just to show you. But yes. Say that again. Yeah. Really, if once you clear him for the approach, like he's supposed to follow the altitudes on the approach himself, so it doesn't really matter too much. I'm not 100% sure. Normally, I think, yeah, most of the times that I've ever seen it, you don't normally clear someone who's below the altitude for the initial altitude for the approach. All right, sorry about that. Quite another question coming off in my ear there, but yeah. So take the Canuck 5 arrival. So if you are cleared a route that includes the Canuck 5 arrival, like you're flying from. Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, once you clear him for the approach, like the altitude really is at his discretion, so he's supposed to follow all the charted things on the approach without you having to say or repeat them. Yeah, so you take the Canuck 5 arrival, so you fly in from Edmonton on the Canuck 5 arrival. You fly it from starting from booth. If it's in your flight plan or if it's in your clearance and you're already clear for this arrival, all these altitude restrictions that appear on this arrival are mandatory. So the below 210 at Vitev, the Lani between 14,000 10,000, all those altitude restrictions are mandatory. That being said, you can't go below the last altitude that you were cleared to by ATC. So plan on all these restrictions. But if I've only cleared you to, as a controller, if I've only cleared you to 10,000, then all those restrictions up to Basra, well, I guess that's a bad example. So if I've cleared you to, let's say, if I've cleared you to descend to 12,000, all those restrictions up to Lani still apply. So you still have to go down to 12,000. You can't go any lower than 12,000 if I haven't cleared you lower. But any altitudes that are above the altitude you're cleared to that are on this, you have to adhere to. So if I haven't cleared you lower, this is a bad example because it's only got one mandatory crossing height. Let me see if I can find a better example here. What about the Grizz arrival? Let's have a look here. Even the Grizz arrival, it's not a great example, but yeah. If I've only cleared you to, let's say you're flying a non-jet aircraft, and I've only cleared you to 12,000, there's a mandatory 10,000 here. However, if I've only cleared you to 12,000, you have to level off at 12,000, even if it means you're going to miss this restriction. I know about the restrictions, I know they exist. You still have to make sure you're flying your flight such that you can try to make this restriction. However, you can't go any lower than the last altitude I cleared you for. So if I cleared you to 12,000, you're supposed to plan on this, but you can't go lower than 12,000 until I clear you to it. If I clear you to 8,000, then this restriction here applies. So once I clear you to 8,000, this restriction now has to be followed, and any other restriction perhaps that might be on the arrival has to be followed. So there's no such thing as descend via in Canada. Any altitude restrictions on here are mandatory, provided you've been cleared below that altitude. Hope that was clear as mud. Yeah, there's no such thing as descend via in Canada. All the altitude restrictions are always mandatory unless ATC explicitly cancels them. If I say, descend 6,000 unrestricted, or if I say cancel all the restrictions on the star, then okay, then they're canceled. But all the restrictions on the star are mandatory until they're canceled in Canada, which is the opposite of the US, where everything is nothing on the plate is mandatory until I say descend via. And then if I say descend via, then everything on the plate becomes mandatory. So in Canada, it's the opposite. If you were cleared to fly the Grid 6 arrival, all those altitudes in there are mandatory, assuming I've cleared you low enough to reach them. Wow. I hope that made sense. Uh, there's a certain beauty to the way the American system works with the descend via clearances. It's well, once you're given the descend via, then it's all the way down. Um, but there's also certain beauty to the way the Canadian system works, because then all those restrictions, you're still planning on them. If I don't clear you low enough, then so be it. But you're still planning on all those restrictions. They should be in your FMC. They should be set, and you'll level off of whatever altitude you're cleared to. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've grown up with the Canadian way, so I think to me that is more sensible in the long run. Is that if I haven't cleared you below a certain altitude, don't go below that altitude. But everything that's on the plate is mandatory unless I say otherwise. Um, that's why we have the plates. That's why the star exists, is so that I can clear you. You can be cleared for the star, and that's it. And the star is part of your route clearance. So when you receive that clearance from ATC at the beginning or in the middle of your flight or wherever, if that star is mentioned in there, that's it. Everything on that plate is mandatory until I tell you otherwise. I don't know. It is a little bit confusing sometimes to try and explain it when the descent via is very simple. The one thing that's beautiful about it is the absolute total simplicity of it. But the trouble is, like, then you lose a little bit of the flexibility, because if you give it descent via clearance, it's just all the way down to that bottom altitude, period, and no level off in the middle or anything for crossing traffic. The one thing with the American kind of way of doing it is that you're taking it a lot on faith that all the pilots have programmed everything exactly correctly. And if you load the star out of the FMS, hopefully all the restrictions should be in there properly. But but you're kind of depending on that as a controller. You give them the descent via, you assume that all those restrictions are in there properly, and that's going to resolve all your conflicts for you, which may or may not be the case. And if there's a restriction that's not in there for some reason that gets missed, that could be a conflict right there that you may not see as a controller coming until too late, because you're expecting all the restrictions. The nice thing in Canada with our system is that because you can't go any lower than the altitude I cleared you to, I know that you're not going to go any lower than the altitude I've cleared you to. So going into Toronto, you get cleared down to 8,000 all the time because the departures are all climbing up to 7,000. So, you're coming down to 8,000 on the star. That 8,000, and because I've cleared you to 8,000, that's the lowest you can go, period. And then anybody climbing up to 7,000 is gonna go right underneath you. So having that set as your altitude is kind of having that set as your altitude selector. A little bit more of a guarantee that you're not going to bust any of these limits, especially in terms of avoiding traffic, avoiding the departure corridors or whatever. I don't know. Each system, I think, has its own advantages and disadvantages. Air Canada 355 Vancouver. The information is Echo. Plan runway 8 left. When ready, descend flight level 240.
Okay, well, plan 8 left for arrival, down to 240 when ready. Okay, 355.
I guess the one thing I could be doing is putting up the other ATC channel just to provide a little more interest, because it's so quiet here this evening. We got a departure out of Abbotsford now going to Kelowna, so that's going to be something. A little more activity, but boy, it is very quiet. Surprisingly quiet. Annoyingly quiet. Not an exciting stream. And I'm sorry for that, guys. I'm sorry it's not very exciting. I didn't know World Flight was going on. If I'd known that, I probably would have. I don't know. I might have considered putting this off, but for me, it comes down to also personally, what can I schedule? What can I fit into my personal schedule? And this was basically it. It was either this or this afternoon, and I kind of made a choice. I said either the evening. If I had to pick between the afternoon and the evening's probably going to be better for the traffic, right? You would think. And yet here we are with I've been online for 1.5, coming up around almost 2 hours. And I've seen, what, 5 airplanes so far? 6 airplanes? Oi. If you're bored, I guess go watch my Cross the Pond video, right? Wow, that was a lot of airplanes for Cross the Pond. That was a successful event. Yeah, so apparently on Sunday we're trying to organize. It's sort of coming together, but I think it's going to happen. We're kind of organizing a little bit of an internal VATCAN event from. Let me think. I think it's Whitehorse to Fort McMurray we were talking about. It was a discussion we were having, and I will most likely be controlling center for that. So. Yeah, Whitehorse to Fort McMurray. So, yeah, I expect that we'll get on about 0200 Zulu on Sunday night, and do that. So it'll be a fun little flight through the Edmonton FIR. Let me see here. Where's Whitehorse? Whitehorse should be. I believe this is Whitehorse right here. I believe. Let's see if I can find it. No, it doesn't exist on this chart here. Let's see here. Where else can I look? I can look on my Navigraph charts. Do. That's not Whitehorse, is it? No, that's Fort Nelson. Yeah, no. Whitehorse is. Whitehorse is more about here, I believe. Somewhere around. Yeah, somewhere up underneath the signs over here in the top left corner. So that's Whitehorse, and then we're going to go down to Fort McMurray, which is just northeast of Edmonton there. So that is a good. Hold on, we'll just see if I can make sure. Just trying to make sure I have this fairly accurately. Yeah, I think it's somewhere over here to about here. So that's 790 miles. It's about a 2-hour flight. And it's all within the Edmonton FIR, so it'll be all controlled by center, and then I believe we'll have tower controllers at both ends, so it'll make for a little bit of an interesting evening. And I'm planning to live stream that one right now because, well, should at least have a few airplanes, should keep us fairly busy, hopefully. More so than we're doing right now. All right, I'll be right back. 1 second. All right, still a little chilly, so decide to put a sweater on now. All right, anywho, what I was going to say is that given that I have no traffic currently inbound, actually, no, that's not true. I do have this one guy in this PA-34, which is it's a PA-34. It's a Piper Aztec. No, it's a Seneca. That's what it is, Piper Seneca. At least I have this one Seneca that's going to take off from Abbotsford and fly over to Kelowna. Because if it gets to the point where I have 0 airplanes on my frequency, I think I'm going to pull the plug on the stream early, not because I'm not enjoying it, but because there's just simply nothing to look at, and I'm trying to find things to talk about to keep things interesting here. But I'm running out of things to talk about. I've been talking for a good almost 2 hours now, and very little of that has been actually communicating with aircraft. Anyways, we'll see how things happen. I think I'm going to just add Vancouver approach here, just to get Vancouver arrival, just to give me something to listen to, because there's really so little happening on this stream. I would have hoped there'd be a little bit more activity in the evening than this. I'm quite disappointed right now, unfortunately. I mean, it is what it is. VATSIM is always a little bit of a lottery, if you will. You're always a bit of a It's always a bit of a guess as to when and where it's going to be busy. You know, I'm privileged that I'm a guest controller in a number of different FIRs, and I have the ability to control in a number of different places. So I try to generally pick the places I control um, based on based on what I think is going to be interesting, especially live streaming, where there's the most amount of traffic that needs service.
Piper November 6981 Kilo. You're cleared to Kelowna via the Abbotsford 9 departure. Departure runway 19er, then it's filed squawk 0716.
I just thought it'd be a little bit more interesting if I at least had
A1
another
Kilo
frequency
cleared
up.
from the airport via the Abbotsford 9 departure off runway 19 as filed and squawk code 0716.
Piper 6981 Kilo, readback is correct. Push and start is at your discretion. Contact me ready for taxi.
Okay, push and start my discretion, and we'll call ready for taxi, 981 Kilo.
If I was really bored, I could listen to Anchorage as well, because that's how unexciting my stream is right now. Pull up Anchorage as well, but even Anchorage has only got 1, 2, 5 airplanes in his airspace, and his airspace goes on for about 2,000 miles as well. Only got 5 airplanes in it as well, so it's not exactly an exciting time right now, unfortunately. And that's it for ATC that's in range that I can listen to as well, which is unfortunate, but Air Canada 355 still has not started a descent. But they have to swing all the way around for the 8s, which is the long way around to Vancouver, so it's not very... You don't need a lot of space to get down. Yeah, no, I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get a few more airplanes on this, but I try to live stream events when I can, but my schedule just is usually the opposite of everybody else's whenever there's an event. Whenever there's an event, it generally means that I'm probably working, because it probably happens on either a weekend or a holiday or in the evenings. Let's see, Winnipeg is having an event on November 20th between Winnipeg and Thunder
Approach
Bay
981
with
Kilo
prizes.
ready for taxi.
$50 worth of prizes available.
Piper 81 Kilo, runway 19er, taxi apron at your discretion, Alpha. Hold short 19er.
Okay, my discretion, Alpha for 19er, and we'll call holding short 981 Kilo.
And then there's a Rocky Mountain run on November 21st, which is Denver to Edmonton. And that's about it. Unfortunately, Canada has become a very quiet division for events, and it's very frustrating because I think events are what really get people interested in flying and controlling. And without knowing when people are going to be there in advance, you know it's such a lottery otherwise on VATSIM. It really is. You know, as a controller, you pick a time that you want to come online. Who knows if there's going to be airplanes there? As a pilot, you pick a time, you pick flights you want to fly. Who knows if there's going to be controllers there? It's a total lottery, you know. But that's why events are such good, useful tools, because then it's no longer a lottery. Now we know there's going to be controllers here, and the pilots will come. And the controllers will come because they know it's a published event. They know the pilots will be there, so it's a win-win, and it really is something that I think needs to happen a little bit more than it's happening right now.
2175, runway 7 right, you're cleared to land.
Well,
Cleared to land 7 right, Delta 2175.
that's Anchorage Center. Because I'm so bored, I'm listening to Anchorage Center as well. And these are literally the other two controllers that are within range. That's it. Nobody else. Air Canada 355. Descend 17,000. Vancouver altimeter 29906.
WestJet 1788.
Down to
Contact
17,000.
airborne, winds 150 gusting 15, clear for takeoff, runway 08 right.
Oh, the WestJets are finally departing. And they've only been online for like an hour and a half just to get off the ground.
Clear for takeoff, 0 right. We'll contact you when airborne.
2 hours.
WestJet 1788.
2 hours they've been online, and they finally are getting off the ground. But isn't that always the way with group flights? Anybody who's done a group flight, I think, could probably attest to this. When you're doing, the more people you have doing your group flight, the longer it takes to get the group flight going. If you have a 2-person group flight, usually you can get it going in about 30 minutes. If you have 3 people, it takes about 40, 45 minutes. Start having 4 or 5 people, it takes an hour for everyone to get logged in, get their airplane set up. Oh, this is not working. Hold on, let me just fix this. And everyone's got just little things they have to tweak. And the more people you have, the longer it takes to get these group flights going. It's a sad truth. And sometimes it limits how much you want to get how many people you actually want to have in your group flight, because the more people you have, the more people you end up waiting for. Like I've done group flights with 5, 6, 7 people, and they're fun when everyone can get everything going. But you know, there's always one person who's, and it's not one particular person or anything, but it's always one person who's, oh, I just had a problem with the sim, or oh, I just got to redo this or reinstall this, and all of a sudden it's, you know,
WestJet 13.
you're sitting there waiting for 20 or 30 minutes for
Traffic.
them to do their thing while you're already ready.
1.0 right, WestJet 1368.
But even these guys, just two
3331, shutting down at gate number 17.
people doing a group flight,
Encore
and it took them 2 hours to get going.
Thanks for flying. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks. I know a lot of trees in there. Tongue twister tonight. I had to laugh about it. Yeah, thanks for the great service. I appreciate it all the time. Encore 3331.
Approach 81 Kilo, Abbotsford, holding short runway 19.
WestJet 1788, passing through 1000.
WestJet 1788 identified. Climb 16,000.
Well, the arrival controller is about to get his work out.
1788.
Let's load up the arrival view.
And November 6981 Kilo, squawk mode Charlie.
And squawking mode Charlie, 981 Kilo.
And 981 Kilo. Winds in Abbotsford 150 at 14, gusting 19er. The altimeter is 29908. You're clear for takeoff. Contact me airborne. You're clear for takeoff runway 19er.
Contact you airborne and clear to take off runway 19er at 981 Kilo.
And WestJet 1788, turn right, heading 180.
I'm just kind of enjoying the show now myself.
Right,
Just
180, WestJet 1788.
watching a little bit what's going on in the terminal here. So we have the one departure out of Abbotsford is going to head to Kelowna in his Piper Seneca. That'll probably take him most of the hour to get there, so maybe we will end up staying on till 5 Zulu. I kind of was just about ready to pull the plug only because it's just so, I hate to say boring, but it is. There's really just not much going on. Hey, Richard.
Delta 2175, cross runway 7 left, kilo to the ramp. You have a good night.
Kilo to the ramp, cross 7 left. Thanks for the ATC. Appreciate you.
No problem.
WestJet 1788, climb 16,000.
Climb 16,000 WestJet, suit 1788.
Oh, the good old VATSIMism.
WestJet 1368, contacting airborne winds 1509.
One thing people never really say in the real world, thanks for the
Clear
service.
takeoff runway 08 right.
Probably would be polite if we did it,
They
but
got 08 right.
you know, they're getting paid in the real world. The controllers are getting paid to be there, so they're going to be there.
WestJet 1788, you can proceed direct to
Here,
Seattle
here
VOR
in line where it's all voluntary, it's important to emphasize that that contribution is appreciated.
Proceed to Seattle VOR on course WestJet 1788.
Approach 981 kilo is airborne out of Abbotsford through 1400 for 3000.
November 6981 kilo, you're identified. Climb 8,000 for now, and proceed. Actually, you can turn right heading 270.
Right turn 270, still up to 8,000 for 981 kilo.
Yeah, see, he's got to just be careful with this guy because
Yep, you can climb 8,000.
he's a piston aircraft. He's not going to be the
8,000,
fastest climber in the world, so kind of important to turn him away from the mountains, give him a little room to get climbed up before he gets turned back. Is there a main difference between terminal and arrival controllers, or are they kind of the same? Yes, they're kind of basically the same. Basically, a terminal controller is somebody who's doing both the arrival and departure role for an airport.
WestJet 1360, airborne passing 1,000.
That's basically the biggest difference between a
you're
terminal and an arrival
identified.
controller. So
Climb
arrival is a position
15,000.
specifically where you are controlling just the
Climb
arrivals
15,000
at
WestJet
an
1368.
airport. Departure is a position where you're controlling specifically just the departures. Terminal would be if you're basically doing both roles. In VATSIM, there's not really a call sign for terminal controller. So because in the hierarchy, arrival is higher than departure, arrival is always the one that gets...
Harris on course.
arrival is always like the terminal controller.
981 kilo.
But yeah, it's a title that just indicates sort of what your role is. So yeah, it basically, if you're a terminal controller, it means you're basically doing both jobs, both arrivals and departures. Air Canada 355, contact Vancouver terminal now on 128.6. Good night.
Up terrible taxi, Air Canada 355.
And November 698, 1 kilo, turn right, heading 020.
020, direct Harris for 981 kilo.
And WestJet 1368, turn right, heading 180.
Right 180, WestJet 1368. Vancouver terminal, Air Canada 355, with you at 17,000.
Air Canada 355. Vancouver terminal, hello, information Foxtrot current. Expect ILS runway 08 left approach, descend.
So based on
10,000.
the flight plan, speed, everything, it looks like the Seneca is going to reach Kelowna just after 4:30 Zulu. 4:36 is the estimate, so he'll probably be
November
at the ramp by 4:40. If I don't see another airplane at that time when he reaches the ramp, we'll pull the plug on the stream at that point.
13,000 for 981 kilo.
Oh, and then Anchorage is gone anyways too. Anchorage wasn't even here very long. Anchorage logged on after we did, and they're already gone. They gave up, nothing much happening, so. All right, I guess we'll stop listening to the Anchorage frequency then. Interesting that I can get it though. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get it through my client because we're not part of Anchorage Center per se. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get it, so kind of interesting to learn that I can get that frequency as well. See, these two guys will pretty much climb south, and as they reach the top of the terminal unit at 16,000, they're also going to reach this boundary, so there's no point in them calling me for the 30 seconds. So he's just got the one inbound, I got the one inbound. That's it. There's not much happening. There is an aircraft inbound to Vancouver from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, but he is a good hour out as well, so I don't see much happening there either, unfortunately. So this guy's filed at 13,000. The one thing I can also do is I have a few good reference documents here. AMA, that's what I'm looking for. So these are the lowest altitudes that an aircraft can be at IFR. So at 13,000, this guy's climbing 13,000. 13,000, he'll be able to proceed direct destination if I want him to, because the highest minimum altitudes in this area, 11,100, even a little lower up north of Kelowna.
Yep.
So yeah, I could proceed him direct. I could proceed him direct the Kelowna beacon there. Just to shortcut him a little bit and get him to his destination, because that is one of the jobs of ATC. It's all about fast. It's all about safe, but also efficient movement of aircraft. So safety first priority, but after safety, we aim for efficiency. Let's get the people from their origin to their destination as quickly as possible without compromising safety.
Air Canada 355, you can descend 8,000.
Yeah, we're going down to 8,000 at 355.
He's not doing bad. He's doing 190 knot ground speed.
1368, proceed direct Seattle VOR on course.
Seattle VOR on course, West 1368.
He's not doing badly. 190 knots. How far is it from Kelowna to Abbotsford? It's about 120 miles. So, yeah, it's about a 45-minute flight in the Seneca. He'll have it done before too long. And that will be the end of it. Because unfortunately, it's just not a very busy night on VATSIM outside of World Flight. So again, guys, I know a few of you are coming and going. If you haven't, World Flight is happening right now. It's just off the east coast of Brazil, or at the east coast of Brazil. Some aircraft are landing, some aircraft are departing. And it's all in support of the Australian Flying Doctors Service, which is a charitable organization that helps get doctors to very remote locations in the Australian outback through mostly the use of, I believe, PC-12s now. They fly doctors to various small communities to be able to provide medical care. So, and it's mostly a charitable organization, really. Especially the flying part of it's a charitable organization, supported by World Flight. World Flight is going on right now, and actually, let's go back and check one more time. See if it's gotten any better, because their target is $10,000 this year. It's still sitting at 8,200. So if you haven't already, go to
Vancouver 981 Kilo is level.
www.worldflight.com.au and go ahead and donate something to support the Australian Flying Doctors. And if you want to go fly a leg as well.
Changed on frequency.
Get a little.
Approved. Have a good flight.
Frequency approved, 1366, sir.
Get a little, bang for your buck. So, you want to donate and support this worthy cause, but why not participate in the event too as a pilot or as a controller and help and just help sort of make it a fun event for everybody. All right, here comes my one airplane.
November 6981 Kilo, contact Vancouver Center 133.7.
Over to 33.7 for 981 Kilo. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.
In his remarks, it just says Fonzie. What does Fonzie mean?
Vancouver Center 981 Kilo. Level 13,000, just crossing Harris 6 now on course.
November 6981 Kilo, Vancouver Center. Good evening. Let's see here. I guess the Abbotsford altimeter is still the closest one for you. 299 or 8.
75,355.
Check altimeter. Thanks. 981 Kilo.
And November 6918 Kilo. Are you interested in direct destination or direct the Kelowna Beacon?
Direct Kelowna would be great for 981 Kilo.
All right, November 6981 Kilo. Proceed direct the Kelowna NDB.
Direct Kelowna NDB for 981 Kilo.
It's all about that efficient movement of aircraft. That way I can log off and go to bed. That's my only motivation here. He is now direct Kelowna NDB. And I imagine he's probably not doing an RNAV Yankee, either an RNAV Zulu or an ILS. We'll pull up the charts for Kelowna anyways and see what it says. All right, so for runway 16, we've got the Loc Zulu Yankee, ILS Zulu Yankee, RNAV Zulu Yankee Victor X-ray. It's definitely chopped a couple minutes off. He's doing 220 knots of ground speed. That's not bad for a piston-powered airplane. It's not bad at all. Still going to take him about 40 minutes to get there. 30 minutes, actually, I guess. 30 minutes from now, he'll get there. So we'll get him a little bit closer. All right, sounds good. I'm going to shut her down after my guy lands, too. The Vancouver rival just told me he's going to shut down as soon as this guy lands, because I guess at that point he's going to have nothing left. We're all thinking the same thing. It's getting late, and there's just no airplanes.
Level 3, aircraft 365.
What's the point of sitting here watching if there's no airplanes? There is one. There's this American 2176 right here. That's him. He's going to land in Vancouver just before 5 Zulu. Is this going to turn into one of those, well, one more airplane moments here? I've been having a lot of late nights this week, and I'm feeling it already. I'm feeling tired already. I don't think I'm going to make it through. I don't think I'm going to make it through another hour. They're on their way down to Vegas. Bunch of stuff happening over here in Seattle. Not much stuff happening in Vancouver. Even Seattle, there's not really much happening. If that controller was to log on right now, he'd have a pretty quiet night. Boston's the only place in North America that seems even a little bit busy right now. So they've got center and ground and tower online. So they got 3 departures, 3 arrivals, and a bunch of airplanes in and around. So of all the places in North America right now, that seems the busiest, and even that is not very busy. It's Tuesday. I guess is what it comes down to. It's a Tuesday night during World Flight. Everybody's down there. All right, so he's just flying. That's just the Hope NDB right there. That's Hope right there. He's just flying a nice direct line at 13,000. He's going to pass north of Princeton and straight into Kelowna. Hey, I'm definitely starting to feel a little bit tired here. I think even the Vancouver terminal controller's about ready to fall asleep here. There really is not much going on. It's just not much going on at the end of the day. That's all there is to it. When pass the beam. Another 2 or 3 minutes. We'll give him the Kelowna altimeter setting. Start getting him set up for the landing already.
Dr. Taylor, Aircraft 355, just wondering if we can start a return for the LS for 8 left.
Air Canada 355 Vector's final turn left heading 170, descend 2000.
Going left 170, we'll go down to 2000, 355.
Air Canada 355, continue your turn to heading 110, cleared ILS, runway 08 left approach.
Continue left 110, clear the LS 8 left, thanks. Aircraft 355.
I've just run out of things to say. I'm trying to read through a couple of websites and see if there's anything new to talk about, but
Correction, Vancouver rivals, HF 355 subs, so local rate left.
he keeps on kind of snapping me out of my
Air Canada 355,
funk here. I
continue
just trying to find anything
Zero approach,
interesting to read
355.
here, and I mean the one thing as well that I'm kind of interested in, and I think I would enjoy this is a Thrustmasters Boeing quadrant. I tend to be a bit more of a Boeing fan than an Airbus fan. Uh, yeah, and I mean I'm really kind of impressed with some of the stuff that Thrustmaster's been coming out with now. Like I think they're starting to recognize that the simmers have big wallets. A lot of simmers, not every simmer by any means, but a lot of simmers have big wallets. And if you put out some decent quality, realistic hardware out there, there's going to be a market for it. It's a little bit tougher when you're sort of focusing on one particular aircraft. A lot of simmers are, mm, uh, multi-dexterous when it comes to aircraft. They want to be able to fly multiple different types of aircraft. But nevertheless, having something at least a realistic jet quadrant, I think is very very useful. I think the biggest trouble is with the Thrustmaster. Um, Boeing yoke is just not the yoke, but the throttle quadrant is that it's just a three slider, three axis throttle quadrant. So you just two throttle quadrants and either a flap or a speed brake. Take your pick, apparently. But for those of us that like to fly the 4.7, you kind of need a bigger throttle quadrant, which is why I've been kind of as much as some of the Thrustmaster stuff kind of interests me, and I think it would be very fun. I think in the end of the day, like I'm going to be looking more at like the honeycomb quadrants, just because I think it's going to be more up my alley with having the ability for multiple for having six
Air
axes on
Canada
there.
355, can you confirm fully established, date left?
Fully stopped, left, HF 355.
November 6
Alright, Air
Niner
Canada
81 Kilo
355,
Vancouver Center,
winds
Kelowna
1508,
altimeter's 29
the altimeter is
88.
2997, clear to land runway 08 left.
Thanks for the altimeter,
Goodbye,
Niner
left,
81 kilo.
And November 6 Niner 81 Kilo. The winds in Kelowna have been kind of light and variable all evening. Right now they're 150 at 3. Did you want to plan on runway 16, and which approach did you want to plan on?
Yeah, I would like to plan on a visual approach runway 16 for 981 kilo.
Okay, November 981 Kilo, a copy plan and the visual. It shouldn't be an issue. Did you want to go direct the airport now, or do you want to still continue direct the beacon?
I would just continue direct the beacon for 981 kilo.
Very good. And let's just see how far he is from Kelowna. 56 miles to go. I look at some people's sim pits, and boy, they're a lot more advanced than mine. I definitely don't have nearly the toys that some people have for their sim. I have a yoke, and I have a throttle quadrant, and that's about it. I need I need to upgrade my sim pit, and when my sim pit is done, I'll definitely be doing some more upgrading. This is about the same amount of traffic we have at ESGG all night. Yep, it's not a busy night, unfortunately. Yep, just not a busy night. Let's see, the one night plane landed in Vancouver, I believe, so that's it. He's down, he's clear. And I'm going to get this guy into Kelowna. And once he's down and clear, I think I'm going to pull the
Hey,
plug as well.
Aircat 355 are clear of the runway.
There he is. He's
Hey,
clear.
Aircraft 355, welcome to Vancouver. Taxi to Gate 72, Mike Tango, apron at your discretion.
April Mike, 355.
Yeah, I'm a little Good night. It's nice to see you, and hopefully, maybe one day we can get you started on center. Yeah, have a good night. Yeah, now I'm just using this time, the rest of my time here on stream to just fantasize about how to set up my sim pit a little better. Make it a little better, not use of my space, but make it a little bit more realistic, but also the one trouble I had with my sim pit in the past, because my desk was small, um, I had the yoke mounted on the front of the desk and the throttle quadrant next to it, so I had my keyboard all the way to one side. I had my mouse all the way over here, and my arms were like this when I was trying to do anything else on the keyboard that wasn't. Yeah. See. Yeah. Yeah. I found like anything else I was trying to do on my computer was my arms were just like splayed so far apart, because the mouse is all the way over here and the keyboard's all the way over here. Um, so I'm really looking for an effective solution. Um, I'm looking at some of these under desk mounts, and that definitely seems like it's a viable solution for some things, anyways. Um, because at least then you can have the keyboard on top of the yoke. Of course, it's kind of like it's in the way, but you can kind of put your arm even with especially if you have the honeycomb yoke. The honeycomb's got a lot of room, so you could put your arm kind of up in between. It would work out pretty well, I think. Better than I think what I've done in the past. So I'm just looking at sort of various solutions of how could I mount the yoke, so that it's not in the way. Because this has been my biggest problem is that I find like the where you want the yoke to be and where you want your keyboard to be are both in the same place, and it makes it very difficult to try and it's very difficult to try and do just about anything, on one desk unless you literally have like a separate monitor just for your simming, and then you can have a different monitor over here where your keyboard and your mouse are. But yeah, this is kind of, and I think this is a problem a lot of simmers kind of face, because my sim rig is not just for simming. I enjoy simming with it, but I also like it. Also enjoy playing other games. So I want to have the keyboard and the mouse right in front of me as well. So I'm thinking that an under desk mount for the yoke and the throttle quadrant would probably be the best way to go. It puts them a little bit low, but it's not ridiculously low. You could always, I have a desk chair that goes up and down, so I can always lower myself down a little bit to get myself to a more appropriate position for the throttle quadrants. Um, yeah, it's kind of on my Christmas list. I don't think I'm going to get it. The honeycomb yoke's a little bit expensive. I told my wife that she'd probably just, I don't know if she'd laugh or cry. You want what for Christmas? But I have been kind of looking at some of these undermount solutions, and I think that I think they're kind of the way to go. They're not cheap. I'll say this: these underdesk mounts are not cheap. They're $80 alone. If you want the dual units, it's $100. Not cheap, but that also strikes me as that's something that's eh, I won't say infinitely reusable, but definitely reusable. The one thing about these is that they work for, maybe Santa should bring me these things. I have been sort of looking at them now, and yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen these, but where is it? Here it is. The under desk mount, the lowrider under desk mount for it works for both the honeycomb, Alpha and Bravo throttle quadrant and yoke, but it also works for the Logitech stuff, which is what I have right
Victor
now.
981 Kilo, looking for lower.
November 6, Niner 81 Kilo, descend 9,000.
Down to 9,000, 981 Kilo.
9 Kilo. 9,000 is the lowest I'm going to be able to get you, so let me know when you have the field in sight. It's right now it's 25 miles at your 1 o'clock.
981 Kilo, we'll let you know when we have it in sight. We're looking. Thanks.
Yeah, so if I was to get this now, like it works with the yoke I have right now, and then I can always swap it to because this is what I'm looking for really right now. I think my yoke is okay. It's kind of it's wearing a little bit. It's getting a little bit kind of loose, but it's definitely still usable. I find the throttle quadrants for me right now are a little bit more annoying because there's a lot of noise in them now. They're kind of cheap potentiometer, you know, interface devices, so they're fairly inexpensively manufactured. And eventually they do tend to get that noise in there. And sometimes you can clean them out, and some of them will work a little if you clean them out, but some of them you can clean them out till the cows come home and it won't make a difference. So um, I'm looking at eventually upgrading to the Honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant. Curious how the setup works for this thing. If it's screwed into the bottom of your desk, which I'm okay with. I'm getting a new desk, but uh, because it looks like it screws probably into the bottom.
1 Kilo has the runway in sight.
6981 Kilo. Thanks. You're cleared Kelowna Airport. Visual approach runway 16.
Clear Kelowna Airport for visual approach runway 16981 Kilo.
So you screw it right. So it doesn't ruin your desk completely though. So it screws directly into the top of your throttle quadrant or your yoke, and then you drill 3/4 inch depth holes, and you install these little threaded inserts in there, and then you screw the lowrider directly into the bottom of your desk, but so it doesn't go all the way through your desk. The other thing that I'll note about this is it looks like it's very quickly removable too. You can remove the bracket by simply loosening 3 knobs, and you can remove the whole thing. Oh, that's exactly what I've been looking for. Something that's fairly easily removable too, so it's not always in the way. Oh, I feel like this would be worth $100. Maybe it's time to ask for something for Christmas. My wife's gonna look at me like I'm crazy. But then again, all you guys watching this probably already know that I'm crazy, because who else would do this? uh, yeah, I'm looking for something anyways, something better way of doing my sim pit. All right, well, he made it in pretty good time. He's gonna be down on the ground in about 5 minutes, and then yeah, that'll be it. I think we'll pull the plug. I don't think we're gonna wait for this American guy. It's getting too late. I'm feeling tired tonight. I've had some late nights the last couple nights, so get myself a good night's sleep. But I appreciate you guys watching the stream tonight. I'm sorry that it was not more exciting. Honestly, I'm disappointed. I did a stream, or I did controlled earlier today, and I opted not to stream while I was controlling earlier today, just because I thought it's going to be boring. It's going to be boring as hell, because it's middle of the day. It's not a very exciting FIR, so I just didn't even bother streaming that one. I'm not sure which of these was actually had more traffic. I think this afternoon I almost had more traffic. I think this is actually had a little bit more traffic, but really, and it's funny because like there have been some nights where I've just sort of randomly logged on to Vancouver, and Vancouver's an FIR that has a lot of people like it. It's very scenic flying. There's a lot of interesting and challenging airports. Like if you really want to challenge yourself as a pilot, come fly in and out of some of the interior airports in southern BC. Kamloops, Kelowna. Kelowna is an interesting one and a beautiful airport, beautiful approaches. Castlegar and Cranbrook, especially, they're kind of one way in, one way out airports where they're kind of narrow valleys, and you can only land one way and take off back the other way because there's such narrow valleys with such steep mountains all around. You can't get in and out the other way. So um, there's some really neat, challenging flying. So I've seen like all sorts of crazy stuff going to various different airports that I'm not used to seeing, I guess. Um, Castlegar and Cranbrook. I've seen a lot of Castlegar and Cranbrook the last little while. I think also it helped that FlyJSim released their Dash 8, and these are all great airports for the Dash 8. You can sneak in on nice steep approaches down into the valleys. Beautiful, beautiful scenery. So I've seen a lot of this stuff lately. Today has been kind of more the exception than the rule, where it's just been absolutely dead the whole night here. Almost nobody around. So hopefully next time I do a stream, it'll be a little busier. So like I said, I think I'm planning on next Friday night. We're gonna try and do, or no, I mean next Friday, it's Sunday night. This Sunday night, we're gonna try and do a stream starting around 01. No, sorry, 0200 Zulu. And yeah, hopefully that'll turn into a bit of a fun stream. But we'll just get this guy on the ground here. November 69081 Kilo, Vancouver. Sorry, the winds in Kelowna showing variable at 2. You're clear to land, runway 16.
Clearland 16, we do have information, Charlie, as well, and 981 Kilo.
Richard. It's Delta now, but it doesn't really matter. Ooh, it's cold there. It's 2 degrees in Kelowna. It's not cold, but I mean, it's definitely chilly. Yeah, so stay tuned to the channel for Sunday night, and if you haven't already, and I'm sure most of you probably have, but if you haven't already, subscribe below, please. It helps to know. It helps me to know when people are following the channel, because it encourages me to do a little bit more and get a little bit more time online. And right now, there's so much going on. outside of my simming world that it's a little bit of a challenge to find the time online. But I promise that I will be trying to find it in the future, especially as we get sort of more deeply into winter and there's less and less reasons to go outside here in Canada. I probably will be spending quite a bit more time online. By the end of the year, my sim will be online and we will be spending a lot of time online. So, yeah, but in the meantime, yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will try to put out more videos. Um, really, at the end of the day, this renovation project has turned into it just turned into one of those like unbelievable behemoths that just keeps on growing constantly. Um, but once it reaches its first phase of completion, then I will be able to put a lot more time back into my videos, into the division as a whole. So yeah, stay tuned for that for sure. That's going to happen hopefully towards the end of this month. I'm hoping we'll really kind of reach a level of completion where we can we can say that it's mostly done and move on. Just waiting for one guy to land, and that is the end of the road. Well, we did get one more guy to take off, but it's getting too late now. But I am enjoying window shopping now. Just window shopping to see how much these Honeywell yokes set someone back. Or not the yoke but itself, but the mount anyways. Wow. The only unfortunate thing is that they cost more than the bloody uh more than the bloody the bloody mount itself. Trying to figure out if there's a better way. Even to ship it in America, that's half the price of the bloody yoke pretty much, but
And center 981 Kilo is clearly active on Bravo.
November 6981 Kilo, Vancouver Center. Welcome to Kelowna Taxi. Delta to the apron. Have yourself a good night.
Delta to the apron, thanks for the help. We'll talk to you later. 981 Kilo.
All right. Well, he is at the gate. I have no more airplanes left, and I'm getting tired. So I'm going to call it a night. But I just want to thank everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you as always. I hope you had fun watching. I know it was kind of a quiet night, and but hopefully the next stream will be a little bit more lively. In the meantime, guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay healthy and safe out there, and we'll see you guys all